I used to think that my problem was discipline. Like I'd start something, I'd get all fired up, make this big plan, and then somehow like it would fizzle out before it ever gets past that finish line. And I told myself all sorts of things like, if I could just push harder, like finally I'd make it stick. If I had more discipline, if I had more willpower, anything along those lines, like I could finish this thing. And it turns out like discipline isn't the real problem. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit. The thing that was the problem was safety. My brain didn't feel safe to finish the thing because finishing meant like someone out there could see the real thing. And what if they don't like it? What if it's not what they expect it to be? And that's a real fear. So today, like we're going to be getting into why you keep like starting things that you never finish and why it's not about any sort of concept of willpower or anything like that. It's about those hidden fears that wake up the second that your dream starts crossing from like an idea into reality. Experts out there refer to this as like the completion paradox. And so I want to unpack that with you today. But first, let me just say welcome to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake, and I'm so glad that you're able to join me today. Now, let me ask you a couple questions, a couple things that might frame this up and make it seem like, yeah, that you're talking about what I'm experiencing. Have you ever started some sort of a project or some sort of a work on yourself, and with so much excitement, you could you could really practically feel the finish line, only to watch that energy fade until it quietly disappears. Or maybe you swore that self-improvement routine, that was finally the one, but 3 weeks later you're back to your old patterns. Or maybe you keep getting inspired about goals, but the moment that they start to feel real, you're getting so close to them, you find a reason to hit pause. And that pause turns into never. It never hits play again. If any of that sounds familiar, then a couple things I want you to know, gosh, there's nothing wrong with you. You are not lazy, you're not lacking discipline or motivation or anything along those lines. You might be dealing with what they call, what they refer to as that completion paradox, where your brain has decided staying in the what could be feels way safer than the vulnerability of stepping into the what is. Maybe you're a parent who kicks off self-care routines with the best intentions, but then life gets chaotic and you quietly start to let them go. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who's got a folder full of half-finished business ideas and content drafts that never make it out into the world. I can tell you, after over a decade of working with small business owners and entrepreneurs, I've seen that so many times. Or maybe you're an employee, with maybe a side project or some sort of personal goal that you've started strong on, but you abandon as soon as work stress starts to ramp up. The thing is, having ideas isn't having more ideas or things that you want to go do. That's not the problem. Starting isn't the problem. The problem is what happens. It's all in your head when the project moves from feeling safe of planning to the riskier territory of being seen. And so, let's dive deep into this today. Now, I did mention my name is Jake, Jake Talbert. I'm the founder, I'm author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. Now, everything we're talking about today is grounded in this book. I highly recommend you grab yourself a copy. It's available on Amazon. Put a link down in the description where you can get it, or you could pause the video right now and go to Amazon and look up The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. This is going to be the best. Right now, you can get it for as little as $2. This is the best $2, that you can invest in yourself to really start to identify your unique gifts, superpowers, how you create more influence and impact in the world, value for the people around you, have better relationships, and live a more, fulfilled life is really what it comes down to. It came out back just in November. When it came out, it's already become an Amazon bestseller. It's hit the top of the charts multiple times, sold thousands of copies, has tons of 5-star reviews. What people love about it, there's two things that it grounds for them is number one, it's all grounded in my story. And I've walked a very similar path to you. I'm a parent, I've got 3 kids. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've worked in those, large corporations, large organizations, just as another employee, feeling like another cog in the wheel. So I know what it's like to be in a lot of the scenarios you're in and experience the things you've experienced. And then, of course, the second thing is that every chapter in here has all sorts of action items and exercises and things, and they're designed for people like us. For the parents, the entrepreneurs, the people who are working away, who can't just burn everything down and go move up out to the mountains to go find themselves. It's things that are designed to fit into your life right now. So once again, I highly recommend you go in the description, get yourself a copy, or pause the video, go to Amazon, order yourself the copy, and then come back and finish out this video, okay? So go get that. Now, I know I've experienced this idea of this fear of finishing and people seeing it. I used to be the king of the almost finished. I'd make progress on something, I'd feel super proud, and then right before the moment of truth, when someone could actually judge the real thing, I'd find excuses to stop. And I thought it meant that I just needed more grit and determination or whatever. But it turns out like I wasn't afraid of doing the work. I love doing the work on projects. I was afraid that like finishing, what that might mean for me and what people might see. And so like, that's what we're going to dig in today. I want to unpack, there's like 6 areas, like principal areas I want to focus on that will help you to understand exactly why your brain like is pulling the plug right before you see that win and that victory, and how you create enough safety around you, like so that you can actually go finish the thing. And just so we're clear, this isn't about forcing yourself to grind harder or magically growing more willpower. It's just understanding that like there's a pattern inside of you, some programming that is a protection mechanism, and you can work with it instead of fighting against it to really see these things through. Like I said, everything that we talked about today is grounded inside of the GIVER method, because once you know how to finish, gosh, your gifts don't just sit in your head or on a notebook somewhere. Like they get out into the world where they can really become the difference. So like I said, if you want to go deeper into that, you can get the GIVER method, use the link to go to Amazon. You can go to thegivermethod.com for more resources, free resources, things about what we do, our newsletter list, all sorts of stuff like that. Now, if you're ready for maybe some more one-on-one support to finally like break this start-stop cycle and really start to become who you want to be, then check out the link down below. It talks about the coaching. I have 2 open one-on-one coaching spots that I would love to see if you're the right fit for. So you can check out the page, watch the video, and if it makes sense, let's book a call and discuss what that looks like. And then of course, if you have a team or host a podcast, you run events, you have an audience where a message like this could really benefit them and resonate with them, then I'd love to like bring it to them in a very real practical way that helps transform where they're at right now. So there's a link down below. It talks about speaking and podcasting. And of course, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. That way I can show up in front of you, keep providing you all the videos that I record throughout the entire week. All right, let's get into this. Like before we go any deeper, like let's get into why your brain keeps choosing like potential over completion, and how to make finishing feel safe to your brain. If it's like that, it's not, it's better than just sitting there and just starting. It's like, no, it's safe to finish and we can go do that. And so we're going to do that with our first principle, okay? The first one is, I call it like spot the bailout point. Like before it sneaks up on you, you gotta look at your personal patterns and understand where that fear is coming in, because your brain is very predictable in that sort of a way. Most of us think that, we quit these sort of things so randomly, like one day we just lose the steam, or we're just so busy, we can't do it, we can't get to that. But it's not random. You've actually got a very predictable bailout point. That moment when your brain is like, hey, maybe we should just like stop here. This isn't us. I'm not feeling this anymore. And it's not, there's no laziness there. It's your brain's job to protect you from seeing anything that it feels is risky. And if you're a parent, entrepreneur, and you're working away in your job, like, gosh, there's a lot of overwhelm, stress, anxiety, frustrations, things that come up. So your brain is constantly in the survival mode, and it's not looking for the good things that are there, like how close you actually are. So maybe your brain's bailout point shows up right after the fun. The exciting part is over and the real work starts. Or maybe like yours is when you're about to share that work, and then suddenly you're like, yeah, maybe it's not ready. Like some people feel it right after the first obstacle, some it's right before the actual win. Now this matters because like if you know when that moment is coming for you, you can be ready for it, right? You can say like, oh, there it is, found it. That's my brain protecting me. That's that bailout point. And instead of letting it take over, you can choose how you want to respond to this thing. If it's not about removing the fear, because those fears still are going to happen. It's part of that wiring. It's just about removing the surprise so you're not blindsided and starting to teach your brain and reprogram it to see it differently. And so here's what you can do. Here's what I want you to try for just this principle. It's an exercise where you're going to grab a notebook, open up a notes app, something like that, and think back to like 5 to 7 things that you started but never finished. Was it personal goals, side hustles, workouts, creative projects, home projects, whatever, anything. Like the variety matters, because it'll help you see patterns, how they cut across all different parts of your life. And then for each one, ask yourself, like, when exactly did I start to pull back? Was it right after you started to shine? Was it right before you had to show it to someone else? Was it the moment that you hit your first, like, wow, this is harder than I expected? Like, be very specific. Like, it's easier to work with resistance when you can spot like the exact point where it's coming in. And then you write those down. You look for the patterns. You might notice that you always stall like at the with the 3-week mark, just before you start having to go take it to public. Or the second thing, stop feeling easy. Like seeing this in a really black and white way, like it takes the mystery away. And honestly, some of the shame of it that goes with it, you know, it takes all that out of the old pattern, and it's now just data that I can see. And then just pay attention to, like, what were you feeling in those moments? Was it overwhelmed? Was it exposed? Was it imposter syndrome or not good enough? Like, don't just name the emotion. Write out like a sentence or two about why it showed up. Like, those feelings are your brain, like, basically waving the flags, being like, hey, danger's ahead, watch out. Like, and understanding why it's waving the flag will help you know exactly what to say back to it the next time. And then the fun part comes, like, you predict your next bailout. Like, you find that next bailout point for whatever it is that you're working on now. Literally, like, you can write it down, like, all right, in week 3, I'll probably start telling myself this isn't worth doing it anymore. And then decide in advance how you're going to handle that. Like, that way, like, when you're excited, you're motivated. Like, when it happens, now you're not wondering what's wrong with you. You're just seeing the pattern that was already expected to come in. Once you can spot those bailout points, you stop taking it as, like, proof that you can't finish things. You just start seeing for what it is, your brain protecting you. And when you, like, know it's coming, gosh, you can call the shots ahead of time. Don't let fear run your show. And that takes us to the second principle, which is about make that finish line feel safe again. Like, there's this, like, psychological safety around being seen for, like, with maybe imperfection, right? How do we make it feel less dangerous? Like, so if we're real, like, we want to start easy, and you know, gosh, starting anything is easy, right? You're in the dream phase, everything's still possible, and nobody's judging you yet. But the second that you get close to that finish line, like, there's a whole different story for all of us. Now it's real. Now people can see it, like, comment on it, pick it apart, and that's when your brain starts whispering, like, maybe let's not put that out there. You know, and this isn't because, like, you're weak or unmotivated. It's because your brain has decided that, like, finishing is, like, that's risky business. Starting, that's safe. Thinking about it, safe. You know, you get to go, like, live in this, like, what could be world. Finishing, like, that's what, like, the what is, you know, and the what is, people, like, can have opinions. If I step into this new thing of what I could be, like, people have opinions and judgments. You know, I can make mistakes. Maybe it's not what people expect. Maybe it's imperfect, you know, and your work can be less than perfect. Like, no wonder so many of us, like, stall out right before the end. And so I want to cover a couple fixes with you. You know, you don't try to eliminate the fear. You know, you make finishing feel safe enough that you can just do it anyway. You start showing your brain, like, hey, in small doses, like, I can see that this imperfect actions or these imperfect results, like, they don't end in some sort of a disaster. And so here's what you want to do. The first thing, like, you just start small. Start even, like, tiny. Think small. Like, finish and share something small and imperfect on purpose. Send that email that you've been overthinking. Post that photo without touching it up. Like, you know, or you know, hand your rough draft to a trusted friend. Whatever. Like, the goal isn't the outcome. It's just providing your brain that, hey, nothing crazy or catastrophic is going to happen, you know, if I show up as not perfect. You know, you can use the idea. I always tell people, like, there's the version 1 mentality. You know, version 1 always outperforms version none. You know, so let's get to version 1. Version 1 creates confidence, clarity, income, all sorts of things like that. So many people wait for the perfect thing. So version 1, like, every time you finish something, like, okay, that's version 1. It's not final. It's not perfect. Like, I can have iterations. It's just the first pass. I'm going to get it out there so I can learn from it. Like, it's amazing what you do with that. Then there's these, like, building your completion containers where you set aside maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and you finish one small thing. You pick one day a week that you're like, all right, I'm not allowed to start anything new. I'm only going to wrap up things that I already have in progress. You know, I'm limiting both the time and the scope so that, like, you make finishing feel manageable instead of overwhelming. And then one that I love is this idea of it's like the 48-hour share. Like, if you've been endlessly perfecting something, like, give yourself 2 days to, like, put it out there. Like, literally just, like, mark a deadline on your calendar. Like this is my visible finish line. You know, when you do this, like, a few times in a row, you start treating, like, your nervous system that, like, done doesn't mean danger. It means momentum. We're moving forward. We're getting there. Your brain learns that, you know, you can be visible and okay at the same time, right? Like, finishing stops feeling like you're stepping off a cliff. You know, you don't have to be like some So you don't have to like go psych yourself up every time you do something. You just do it because like it feels normal. And the more you do it, the easier it gets over time. Now it takes us to the third principle, which is like, talk it out with your fear. You got to have a conversation with your fear. And yes, I really do mean that. You know, your fear is trying to help you, so let's learn to listen to it. Most people think that resistance, that, you know, it's this idea like we talked about, like laziness or you're unmotivated, and like, nope, that's not what resistance is. Resistance is just your brain's job. Like, it's keeping you safe. And the problem is, like, it's terrible at telling the difference between real danger and like, people might not like my project danger. Yep. And so here's what happens. You're cruising along making progress and suddenly you feel like quitting. Like, that's not being flaky or having an answer. Like, it's just your nervous system like throwing out like, hey, let's not risk it. Let's not go that direction, like warning signs or flags. Yeah, but here's the thing. Fear isn't your enemy. It's more like your overprotective friend who means well, but keeps like talking you out of doing some fun stuff just in case. You know, if you treat it like a conversation instead of a cage match, like you can figure out what exactly you're worried about and go deal with it. Like sometimes fear is saying like, hey, this isn't ready because like it's scared of criticism. Sometimes like, you know, hey, I don't have time, because like failing at something important feels worse than ever trying. Yeah, and sometimes it's like this is too hard, because you know it's afraid that you'll find out like you're not as capable as you hoped that you once were. And so let's talk about some ways that you turn fear from these roadblocks into like, let's make it your co-pilot. You know, write the conversation down that you're having with your brain. Literally you know, scared, like this scared me. You know, I don't want to finish this because, and then let it spill with no censoring. And then reply back like wise me would say, like, you know, acknowledging like the fear and offering possible solutions. Like write it out like, hey, the scared me thinks this because, and the wise me says this is what it's about. You know, writing it down, it keeps you from getting stuck in this mental loop. It gives you a record where you can look back. It's amazing the changes that happen when you actually write something out on paper. Your brain processes data differently, and you actually are able to think through those emotions more clearly. You know, ask it questions. Ask your fear questions. Like, what are you trying to protect me from? What would make you feel safer, you know, about finishing this? And the goal isn't to argue, it's just gain the clarity. You know, what specific, like the fear gets, the easier it is to go work on. You know, do weekly check-ins. You know, take 10 minutes, ask yourself, like, what's making me hesitate right now? And you're going to catch fears when it's still small, and you can go address it instead of letting them pile up before you're like about ready to quit. You know, and then of course, jot them down in a notebook so you can track the patterns over time and going back to principle number 1. And then of course, have a plan for the big ones. Like if it's the fear of criticism, decide ahead of time how you want to handle that feedback. If it's the fear of maybe new expectations, set clear boundaries before they're needed. If it's the fear of failing, like remind yourself, like this is a test run, it's not the final judgment. When you have like the ready-made plan, your fear can stop running the show. When you stop wrestling with fear and start listening to it, like you free up so much mental energy to go do stuff. And here's the bonus, you can also, like, it just builds trust in yourself. You prove that you can handle the tough emotions without bailing on what matters the most to you. And that takes us to the fourth principle. Like, let's make it easy to win. Like, don't set the bar so high that you have to trip over it every single time. The fastest way that you kill a project is you make the bar so ridiculously high that nobody could reach it. We dress it up as like, I've got high standards, but really it's a fear in an outfit. And the truth is, like, if the bar feels impossible, your brain is like going to go try and find a dozen reasons to bail before you get anywhere close, because quitting feels safer than failing at that thing. That's why I love, like, there's like, let's just strategically lower the bar. You know, I'm not talking about shrinking your dreams. I'm talking about lowering the starting point so you can actually get moving. Because here's the thing: nothing kills momentum like staring up at the mountain and telling yourself, like, you know, you have to hit the summit on the first try. Like a rough draft, like that gets done, beats the perfect book that's still sitting in your head every single time. A simple website that can live beats the flawless, like, one that's stuck in Dropbox. You know, good enough and done will take you places. Perfect and unfinished never will. Version 1 always will outperform version none. Just make sure you're shooting for version 1 and not version 10. Now, here's what I want you to do. So there's a couple things. The first one is, I call it the 70% rule. You know, share it when it's 70% ready, not perfect. Just ready enough to teach you something. You know, think of it like you're putting out the beta version. you know, and so you can get feedback, you can improve upon it. The goal is movement, not not that it's a masterpiece. You know, think about what's the minimal viable like completion of this. Like before you start, define like what's the smallest version of success. One chapter, one service, one 10-minute walk. Like that's it. It removes the intimidation factor, like the staring at the mountain, feeling like you have to hit the summit the first time. Think about like the daily closure habit, where every day you finish one thing completely. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, a drawer that you clean out or the email that you send. Finishing something daily, like it builds this like I'm a finisher muscle. It tells your brain, it rewires things, makes it easier to finish bigger things later. And then like change the question. Stop asking like is it right? Is it perfect? Just be like, hey, is it good enough to learn from? And that flips the goal from flawless output to like a valuable progress, which is way less scary and way more doable. And here's why this works. Every time you finish something, even if it's small, even a little rough, you're proving to yourself, you're rewiring your brain. It builds the momentum like that you need, that like, hey, let's get past the perfectionism, like, because that will never get you where you want to get to. And that takes us to the fifth principle. Like, all right, we start doing things. We're gaining momentum. So let's stack your wins. You're gonna, like, it's insane how your confidence goes through the roof when you start stacking all of these wins on top of each other. That's the thing about momentum. It's not about something that you go find, it's something that you go build. You know, if you've been bailing on projects halfway through, your brain has probably started telling yourself like a story like, I don't finish things. I struggle to finish things. Every abandoned goal becomes like exhibit A, exhibit B of the case against yourself. So we got to rewire your own story. The fastest way to do that, like stack the wins, small doable wins, like the ones we've talked about. Like just remind your brain like, oh yeah, I am somebody that can follow through, that can finish these things. I'm not talking about meaningless busy work here. I'm like, these are wins that feel good enough to matter, but like they're not so big that they freak out your system and trigger that like, nope, that's too much response. And so here's a couple of ideas that you could do. Like the first thing is like, think of like setting a foundation week where it's like, hey, for the next 7 days, don't start anything new. Just finish the little things that you've been putting off. That email, that drawer you want to clean out, that call that you keep saying you're going to make. It's not about achievement. It's just about stacking the easy things, no pressure. Like these are no pressure completions, so that you can build some of that self-trust muscle without the weight of huge goals. And then think of the second thing is like this idea of like bridge projects. Like these are the mid-sized wins, big enough to feel proud, you know, but small enough to still be realistic. You know, one article, one room, one course module, like whatever, like done. It's done in 1 to 3 weeks. You know. They're the like perfect training ground between quick wins and something big and the big intimidating stuff that you're going to go do. And then of course, celebrate every completion. Every time you finish something, mark it. You know, get a cup of coffee, tell a friend, take a victory lap around the room, whatever. Even pausing for 30 seconds to acknowledge that you just completed something, like it counts. You're teaching your brain that finishing is emotionally rewarding and not just a checkbox. And of course, like there's this chain building where like you knock one thing off and then immediately move on to another. You know, it's like how do we do the dominoes and knock them all down, right? You know, once the first falls, how the rest just starts to get easier. You know, even if the next task is tiny, riding the momentum wave keeps the resistance from creeping back in. Because every little win is like, it's the vote, you know, towards your new identity. It's the receipt that you get to keep that says, hey, I'm this type of person. And there's tons of like behavioral data and research out there that shows that people who collect small wins, they're way more likely to crush big goals later. And before long, you just start noticing something amazing. You're not dreading the finish line anymore. You're chasing it. You're so close to hitting it. And that takes us to the sixth and final principle, which is like, stop just being a starter. Like this is how you actually become a finisher. You know, like if you've been bailing on any sort of project or thing that you're working on for a while, like you've probably got that voice in your head, like I'm just not the kind of that person that finishes things. And the thing is, like that voice is so dangerous because once you like buy into that story, your brain starts treating like quitting like it's inevitable. And so you flip the script on it. It's not about chanting positive affirmations in the mirror or pretending you're someone that you're not. It's about building the evidence we've talked about, the real proof, the follow through. You know, every finished task, no matter how small, is the vote towards that new identity. So like, here are some ideas, the things you want to consider. Build the I finished things list. You're going to track the things, like keep the running tally on your phone or in a notebook. Like every time you complete something, email sent, workout done, project wrap, like, you know, the big, the small, whatever, it all counts. Review it to remind yourself like you're not just starting. You're actually stacking proof and follow through. Talk like a finisher. My goodness, like get rid of that. Like I hope we can do this. I hope we get to the end. I hope we finish. And just being like, hey, I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start, and say it out loud. Like it's gonna feel cheesy to do that, but your brain listens to how you talk about yourself. You'll start looking for ways to make those words become true. Make finishing a moment. Like I said, you gotta victory laps, ring the bell, celebrate of some kind, check that thing off the list, whatever it is. Like mark the moment so your brain gets like that, hey, completion equals celebration hit. Like how it recognizes those things. The more emotional reward you attach to finishing, the more that you're going to want to repeat it. And of course, you can picture the future you. Spend a few minutes just imagining life as the person who finishes. You know, what would you have done what would you have under your belt at that point? What would you how would you carry yourself, differently at that point? What would people say about your reliability? And make it as vivid and clear as possible. Your brain loves to work towards like clear pictures. Because when you believe you're a finisher, you act like one, even like when you're tired or busy or tempted to bail. And the best part is it's not just completing projects, you're trusting yourself again as a part of that process. And so with all that, like, here's what I want you to walk away with. Like, there's nothing broken about you, and you're not short on willpower in any sort of way. You've just been like trying to finish things without feeling safe enough to let them be seen, and the flaws and all. And I know that feeling, like, when you've got a graveyard of half-finished projects staring you down. You start with this, like the spark of excitement, but somewhere along the way, the energy fades, doubt gets loud, and before you know it, you quietly like set it aside. And then there's the guilt, like, oh gosh, I wish I could finish those things. I wish I could just stick with anything. Like, and that's a loop you get into. The truth is, like, those patterns aren't proof of any sort of like undisciplined or laziness. They're your brain's way of just protecting you. And once you understand what it's protecting you from, you can work with it instead of against it. The things we talked about today, they aren't like productivity hacks. They're a roadmap to creating the kind of like psychological safety that you need to finally cross the finish line. Remember, it isn't about erasing fear. You never will. Fear is always going to be there. Fear, doubt, imposter syndrome, like those come back again and again. But it's about making space for the fear and still moving forward. Every time you choose, like, hey, I'm going to be done over perfection, progress over hiding, you're not just checking the box. You're proving to yourself like that you can trust you, and it changes things. Now, if anything that we talked about today landed for you, if you want to go deeper, in any of that, then that's where I'm going to recommend that you go use the link down below or go to Amazon, get a copy of the GIVER method. Like, it really is the foundation for understanding your gifts and actually letting them get out in the world. You can only share them if you finish them. And if you want some hands-on support with a part of that and breaking these patterns, like, check out the link about the coaching, one-on-one coaching that we do. And of course, if you run a team, lead a group, have an audience, an event, podcast, whatever that would benefit from this type of work or this type of message, then I'd love to bring these frameworks that I have in a way that's really practical and lasting for them. Check out the Speaking and Podcasting link. And of course, if this video sparked something for you, drop a comment. What's your biggest takeaway? I read them. I love knowing what clicks. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notification, all those YouTube-y things, right? So that you don't miss out on the stuff that I put out next. Your gifts, they're not meant to stay locked in draft mode. Your ideas, they aren't meant to live and die in this almost done. People who need what you have, like, they can only receive it when you finish. You're the only person that has your combination of gifts and superpowers and experiences. So you're the only person that can create the value that you can. And so finish the things you're working on so that you can start putting that value out into the world. Stop waiting for a perfect moment. Just start creating from like the safe conditions that you need to cross the finish line. The world's waiting for you. Like, don't keep it waiting too long. And with that, I'll just say thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching the video, and we will catch you soon in our next one. Have a great rest of your day.